Okay guys, so we're going to do the introduction to the Middle Ages today. You need to watch the video and then you're going to fill out your vocab sheet, which is really easy, and I'll go over that at the end of it. So for this start of the semester, we're going to be working almost the entire semester in Europe and kind of the changes that go on there. We looked at India and China and Egypt and those areas of world history, and now we're into Europe, which is kind of the more interesting area to students because we've got lots of castles and kings and queens and drama that goes on. But the Middle Ages is my favorite time period to study only because it's such a difficult time period to be alive and so many amazing things kind of come out of that time period. So we're just going to do a quick intro to the Middle Ages today. We're going to look at what caused the Middle Ages and then what effect it had on them. So the first question I always ask at the beginning of this unit is, if our government disappeared, how would our lives be different tomorrow? And if you came to the live lesson, which I wish that you had, you would have heard one of my awesome students, Anna, say that money would be gone. The value of money would be gone within a day. And that is really the core best answer I could even ask for. And then no matter what happens next month or next year, all of that kind of comes back to money. Without any money, I'm not going to go to work. You're not going to go to school if nobody's there to make you go to school, because why would you? There's no money. There's no value to anything. What things are going to become valuable is food, water, weapons, and things that are going to help you survive. Nobody's going to care if you have a fast car or a big house if money no longer has any value. So there's going to be a lot of looting and rioting, and you'll see very quickly that our systems in place that protect us would be gone very quickly. People aren't going to continue to be firefighters and police officers and paramedics when there's no money and the world is really dangerous. So the things that we have, our structures in place, would be totally gone. And that's what happened in the Middle Ages. The last unit we did was this great Roman Empire, and when that collapses completely, then we're going to see exactly what would happen today. So what we'll look at today is, what is the Middle Ages, give it a definition, what caused it, and kind of what impact and effect it has from those changes. I don't know why my little Dropbox guy is over here. Oh, he doesn't want to be moved. All right, so the Middle Ages, what is it? It's the time period between when the Roman Empire existed and all the way to the Renaissance. So the Roman Empire collapses completely, and we enter this time period for about 1,000 years. That is known as the Dark Ages, the Medieval Time, or the Middle Ages. They're all the same thing. And from this terrible time period is when we hit the Renaissance, which is the time period of like growth and beauty and art and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people see this time period as very bleak and very dangerous because there is no structure and because there's a lot of bad things kind of going on. We're going to study the Black Plague. We're going to study the Crusades. There's a lot that goes on in this time period that's not happy stuff. But there are actually some amazing things that also take place that we'll study as well. So the first cause of the Middle Ages is definitely the fall of Rome. So Rome was this massive empire, controlled most of the world over there in the European area, and they're invaded by the Germanic tribes. Because remember, we studied all those Roman emperors. The ones in the end were terrible. They were weak. They didn't know how to lead. So the Germanic tribes come in, invade the Roman cities, Rome especially in the capital, burn it to the ground. They kill massive amount of people. They enslave the rest of them. They destroy everything that they can find in Rome. And that leads to the collapse of the government that controls almost everything in Europe. So you can see here all the different groups that came in and took over the Roman Empire. We have the Angles, the Saxons, who will eventually become Anglo-Saxon, the Franks, the Goths, Visigoths, Ostrogoths, the Huns, the Vandals. They're just going to tear apart the entire Roman Empire and divide it up between themselves. And because of that, as I pointed out with the money, there's this massive disruption of trade. Merchant trade is going to collapse. That means their economies are going to collapse and money becomes very scarce. The little bit of money people have that as a value will be gold and silver. The rest of it has no value whatsoever because there's no government that backs it now. There's no banks or anything like that because all of that has collapsed. And that means people are going to abandon the cities. Okay, that used to be where everybody wanted to be, but now that there's no government in place, nothing to keep them safe, no military, police, nothing, they're going to leave the cities. They're dangerous. As we know, cities can be dangerous. And where are you going to go? You're going to go out in the country where you have your own land, you're by yourself, and you can protect your family. So Europe becomes rural. People don't want to live in the cities anymore. Rural means that they live out in the country. And that means also that there's really no leadership. There's no one in charge. There's no one calling the shots. And there's just no government at all. And the Germanic tribes that invaded Rome, they didn't read or write. They didn't care about that. They learned how to hunt, they learned how to fight. That's all they cared about. So when Rome completely collapses, are you going to go to school if the government collapses? No, absolutely not. There wouldn't be teachers there anyway. And so learning becomes less important. When you go out into the country, what are you going to learn? You're going to learn how to grow food, how to protect yourself, and how to survive. That's all you're going to care about. You don't care about learning Latin, which is the next thing, is Latin is suddenly no longer a common, there's no common language. People are not going to be able to communicate with each other because no one's getting educated. So they all have their own languages. We're going to see the birth of French, Spanish, Portuguese, English. So all these different German, they'll all develop based on where you live out in the country, instead of everybody having one common language that they're learning in school. And without an established government, the Germanic tribes did not have written laws or orderly government for ruling purposes. They just attacked and took over, took what they needed, and left. So now we have no government system in place either. So what is the effect of all this stuff going on? What is going to be the things that we're studying? The first thing we're going to see is the rise of the Germanic kingdoms. So those Germanic tribes will set up in different places. So the Ostrogoths, the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Anglos, the Saxons, they're all going to set up their own kind of kingdom. And from that, we'll see different countries are born. We'll see France is born, England is born, Germany is born. And eventually, the Germanic tribes become the Holy Roman Empire, which is going to become a very powerful empire later. The next thing we see is the rise of the feudal system. And we're going to spend a whole day on this, learning about this. But this is basically how people stack up, who's important and who's not, and how many numbers of those people are there. We're going to see the power of the church, specifically the Catholic Church, is going to grow very rapidly, and that means the power of the popes from this time period, they're actually going to become more powerful than the kings, because people rely so heavily on the church. And we're also actually going to see the rural life become safer. I know that sounds strange because this is a dangerous time period, but remember, a lot of people feel safer out in the country because it's your own land that you can protect on your own instead of being kind of all meshed into a city where it can be invaded. And there's no emphasis on learning whatsoever, which, breaks my heart as a teacher, but that is what the time period is. If our government system shut down tomorrow, I wouldn't care if my kid knew how to sing the ABCs. I would care if they knew how to survive. So we're talking like the modern day zombie apocalypse of that time period. So that's pretty much it for today. Pretty easy introduction to the Middle Ages. We're going to go through a lot of information. So what you guys are going to do for tomorrow's assignment is you are going to actually do a vocab worksheet. And that looks a little bit like this. If you're going to click on this right here, it's going to say Middle Ages Digital Interactive Notebook Vocab. You're going to click on it and make sure you make a copy. When you do that, you're able to type on it. If you don't make a copy, you won't be able to type on it. And zoom in when you open the worksheet, because as you can see, I'm going to open it real quick. It's pretty small when it originally opens. So I'm just going to go right up here to this little screen and click 100%, and then I can type right on it, okay? And when I type right on it, it also says, look for an image that best symbolizes it and insert it. So you're going to go over here to insert, you're going to click image, and you're going to search the web for something that represents the terms that are on here. And then you just submit this right from your Google Drive. It'll save right onto your drive for you. If you have questions, send me an email. If not, you guys should be off and running for the semester. Thanks, guys.